Hey folks, this is immigration attorney Hassan Abdullah here from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm preparing this video to discuss the latest update on the Afghan parole cases. So, in a previous video, I was discussing the process to apply for humanitarian parole, which USCIS outlined on their website in detail, and I broke that down into more digestible format. But now we want to know what's going on. What's the update? So the latest update in a report to Congress, the DHS noted that the vast majority of these evacuees who entered the U.S. Were granted humanitarian parole by CBP by officers at the ports of entry. So there were emergency evacuees who were able to come to the United States, and they were granted parole when they were at the ports of entry. Pretty straightforward. But what about the people who, in the US, there was perhaps a sponsor, perhaps an NGO, or maybe law firm filed a humanitarian parole application for admission to the U.S. to evacuate Afghanistan due to the circumstances and the danger that the applicants are claiming. So the government figures are out. About a month ago, actually, a few weeks ago, they were released, and it states as following. 43,000 humanitarian parole applications were received since July of 2021 up until around mid-February. And during that period of time, they have processed only 2,000 applications. So you're looking at 5% of the applications were actually processed. Of those processed applications, of those 2,000 applications, 1,500 were denied and 170 were approved. So it means that some of them are probably experiencing something. Well, I mean, of those processed, that math doesn't really add up. But let's just look at the actual number of approvals, 170. So that tells us that we could round that up to 200 and say only 10% of those processed actually got approved. So what does that tell us? It tells us that so far, 10% of 5%, which means 0.5% of all of those who have applied, have only that many have gotten approved. So USCIS is very sparingly granting these approvals. And so what does that tell us? I think it tells us a few things. One thing it tells us is USCIS is applying a very rigid, strict standard to grant these. It is not an amnesty. It is not going to be liberally granted. Secondly, it tells us that probably many people applied frivolously without truly having a valid case. But thirdly, it also says that there are going to be many valid applications that are getting rejected. And the reason for that will have to do with the fact that most likely the evidence is just not very strong. And USCIS is therefore requiring very clear, very strong evidence of a clear, imminent threat. But the irony of this is if you're really in danger and it's a clear and imminent threat, then waiting this long for an approval is pretty absurd. But how is USCIS going to resolve this issue? Perhaps having more officers, but that's not the case because they're not going to allocate more resources towards this, it looks like. It's just going to be a very slow, drawn-out process, it seems. And I hesitate as an attorney to even accept new humanitarian parole cases unless there's some very serious, very clear evidence of danger for the applicant. So that's basically the update that I wanted to share. Not the most positive news, but it's important to at least give people an understanding and a reasonable perspective of what's going on the ground with USCIS as they continue to process these cases. So thanks for watching. I hope this has been helpful and has helped you understand the process and the situation better. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.